Now, the sellers have been in control of AMC, seeing 4 red days in a row, continuing all the way down to this support level of 310. Now, are we going to get this bounce here and really correct this movement, trying to retest that long-term resistance? Or should we expect continued movement to the downside with the sellers staying in that overall control? Now, guys, take you to the weekly. We see that AMC is extremely beat up. I like to start there, right? It's a very beat up stock, but what we're going to analyze is the shorter term perspective. See if there's any good price action that could be going on, leading to a move up. And now we found that double bottom like formation, like we explained in our last AMC videos, right? We came all the way down, huge sell off, came all the way down to that 238 level where we did get a bounce going up and testing that 1180 level. Can't hold that after that being an extremely large movement. And we come back down. We kind of chop us between that 4 and that 5 for some time. Get a bit of a movement down, and that's where we find that double bottom, right? Coming back down to the support level, and we see a little bit of a bounce there, guys, ascending up and then descending, but cannot fully retrace that movement and retest that bottom. We hold a bit higher, seeing the buyers break through that descending range and get us back above to around that 360. And this looked like some very nice bullish momentum for the buyers, possibly seeing a nice movement out of this longer term resistance and continuing our way up. See some nice volatility and buyer price action, but we don't get that, guys. Sellers step right back in, as this has been very much a back and forth of recent times. So sellers step in last week, and now this week with it just starting, guys, we see that sellers are continuing to push price down. We'll go on the monthly quick for a better perspective, right? We've gotten that bottom, right? This was around that bottom that we were at, slightly higher, but we got that huge movement up to that 393 and came all the way back down, fully retracing. And now we see those all-time low levels, guys. So we got that double bounce on the weekly like we examined. Instead of the buyers really finding that momentum here, guys, we do get shut down once again. So we got that double bottom, find that buying momentum. We get pushed all the way to that level of around $4, that $4 psychological level. But we get pushed back down again. We find another, buyer move up. So what we kind of see is a little bit of an ascending profile here with price after getting that double bottom, but we still see a lot of back and forth. When the buyers make a nice move up, we see sellers step in, but they have these smaller retracements. Big move up, small retracement, nice move up, and a smaller retracement as we speak. But we gotta see if sellers are going to continue, bring us to the bottom of this range, and possibly for another bottom, or if we're gonna flip right away and see buyers push up, this being kind of in this ascending profile. I'll take you guys to the daily. What we can see here is that we got out of that longer term resistance range, right? And we got that big movement up to that $4 level. That in itself being roughly around, we're talking about 50%, around 50% of a movement. Then we see that retracement, and it takes a bit longer for these sellers to push us down, but we get pushed down basically the entire movement, holding slightly higher at that 280 instead of fully retracing to around that 260 level. And we see 3 breakout attempts here, guys, of this descending channel. We see one right here, we see one right here, and we see one right here. That being the full breakout. So we break out and we gap up and we continue our movement after sellers try to push us down, touching that descending resistance here, and that's where we get that big rejection off. So we see after multiple breakout attempts, buyers do get that nice bar out, and we do see that buyer momentum, but we do end up hitting that resistance, which was created right around above that $5 level. So to be exact, right, we're talking more so around that $5.50 level. It's where we got that rejection, which created this resistance here, as we see kind of tapping off that after that big run up and getting a very sharp rejection, followed with a continued movement down. And this is kind of what we're seeing here, right? We got that gap up, very nice movement up. Not as volatile as we see here, but we do see still a volatile movement up. We hit that resistance and we get crushed back down. So what we're analyzing here is if we're going to get the bounce sooner than later, because if we don't, guys, we very well could be in a continued descending pattern for a bit, retesting that bottom of that 283. But before that, we have some very obvious points where we could bounce. We could bounce right here, right? This being kind of a double bottom formation in itself, right around that 310 level. We got that gap up. We've gotten that bounce here a couple times and moved up. So what we could be seeing here is a red to green reversal, with the buyer stepping in and using this level as support. That's the best case scenario, as if we don't get that, guys, you'd want to watch for this gap to get filled here. And that would be right around that, say $3.60 level, with other support being around that 3 to 290-ish level, right? Seeing that full gap get filled, as we did get a little bit of a gap up on this candle. But this could be a very nice point for us to bounce here, as buyers can flip this right around, retest this resistance here, and see if buyers can regain that control, getting a nice movement out. But right now, guys, definitely not looking great, as just in the short time of 4 days, right, we see a rejection off that and about a 12 to 13% movement down. Definitely showing that sellers are gaining that control. Doesn't look like buyers have much of a fight with all these candles really being very solid, showing that sellers were in control for the majority of the day. So watch for that bounce of 390 and furthermore the top of that wick. You can't get that, guys. Watch for that retracement right back down to that 280, seeing if that can hold up. But overall, we see a half retracement of this movement as we've gotten that break of this descending range. We've gotten that move up, that gap up, continue to move up, and now we see a pullback being roughly half to a little bit of half of that movement. Nice breakout, continue to move up, smaller retracement. So if we do get a bounce here, still looking good for the buyers as we could try to trend back up to this resistance here and try to get that break. But yeah, guys, most recent price action not looking great. Definitely looking bearish. We'll have to see if we can get that bounce there. If not, AMC is definitely not a stranger to going on these prolonged movements down, as we've seen the stock be very beat up as well. And most recently, after we got that big movement up, we had that correction, which took us down for quite a bit. So getting a bounce here would be very nice for the buyers. If we can't get a bounce, we'll watch for that gap fill and then watch for that 283. All right, guys, on the hourly, we see where we got rejected. So we broke out of that range once and for all. After that third breakout attempt is successful, get that gap up, get that movement up. So let's try to push us down, roughly filling that gap right there, guys. They cannot get that full movement down, so we chop a little bit, finding that support at that 397. Get that movement up, and we reach that longer term resistance. So we try to break through for multiple hourly candles. We really can't get that breakthrough. So let's find a nice move down, but buyers still want to test that level. And once again, we can't break through it, leading to a longer retracement, getting all the way back down to that 397, right around that gap fill area. So a bounce here is crucial, guys, to see a movement back up. Try to break through that 324, reclaiming this consolidation range right here, and then trending upwards, trying to retest that ultimate long-term resistance. You definitely want to see buyers flip this thing around before it's too late, given how favored AMC is with the sellers. Once the sellers get into control, they'd like to stay in control for a bit of time. If we don't get the bounce here and bears get into that control, watch that 283. If we get a bounce here, still looking good for the buyers, given we did get that nice breakout out of that descending channel. But going off the last few days of price action, definitely tough for the buyers, guys. You want to see a flip in price action before it's too late. This thing can be volatile, so if we could see volume really start to flush in here, giving buyers that momentum, we could be seeing a retest of that longer term resistance. And if we do break through that longer term resistance, stemming around that 550, we would be in a very nice position for the buyers to continue their move up, possibly seeing a very volatile move, given that AMC is not a stranger to these very strong movements up and down. But if that doesn't happen, we don't get the bounce, guys. Watch for that bounce of those closer levels of 280. If that cannot work out, we probably will be headed back to that floor, seeing if that can hold up. If not, we'd be headed to the all-time low territory. But as of right now, we saw a nice movement and breakout. We saw a small retracement. If we get a bounce there, guys, we still are looking good for AMC. Now, let me know your price predictions in the comments below. The next few days of price action will be crucial. If you guys enjoyed and want to see more AMC content, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, trade smart, and I'll see you all in the next one.